For this video, I'm going to read a bedtime short story while we carefully watch the beautiful scenery of a relaxing creek as I read. I hope you guys enjoy this and find it relaxing, and if you like it, I'll produce more videos like this. So let's get started and begin relaxing now. For this relaxing video, I'm going to read out of a book based on Zen and Zen principles. You can hone in on the relaxing rhythm of my voice and also listen to the calming river sounds as you watch the creek water flow. This is a relaxing visual for you to view as you listen to the combination of the words and the water sounds as you begin to relax. Take a moment now and get ready to relax and fall asleep. Get your blankets, a pillow, whatever you may need. I'll go ahead, get set up, and get ready to start reading. If this particular video appeals to you, comment down below and let me know if you have any other great ideas for works like this that I could produce. Let's begin relaxing now. Each entered the forest at a point he himself had chosen, where it was darkest and there was no path. These lines come from an ancient story we have come to call The Quest for the Holy Grail. It is a story rich in inner meaning and significance. When the knights of King Arthur's court had seen an apparition of the Grail through a veil, they determined to go on a quest to find it, and they thought, we should go out together to find the Grail. But then they realized that this would be a disgrace. No, each one must go alone into the forest and enter at the point he himself would choose, where it was darkest and there was no path. Entering the forest alone at the darkest spot, this is the road less traveled. To walk this path is to take the hero's journey. This book is for those who, like the mythic heroes of old, are ready to make their lives a quest for the shining apparition of their own best self, ready to take the hero's journey. The word hero is related to heresy and heretic. All three are derived from the Greek heretikos, meaning able to choose. A hero is a chooser. A hero chooses the questions of his or her own life and thereby his quest. Here is a quote from Henry David Thoreau. If a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it was because he hears a different drummer. Let him step to the music he hears, however measured or far away it might be. For all of us, the question is the quest I own. In other words, the questions we ask or fail to ask shape the journey of our lives. What distinguishes the hero from the rest is that he or she chooses the questions and earnestly seeks them. The rest blindly and often half-heartedly follow the conventional questions of their society. As Joseph Campbell puts it, the usual person is more than content. He is even proud to remain within the indicated bounds, and the popular belief gives him every reason to fear so much as the first step into the unexplored. Will you live your life spontaneously from the heart and its pathless call, or conventionally from prescribed role? Will you take the path less traveled, or the well-trodden road? This is the dilemma that Zen and the Grail myth put to each of us, each in its own imitable way. The Grail myths of the West and the Zen insights of the East inform and instruct one another. Both say loud and clear, be yourself, be done with fear. Both say, trust your original nature. Both say, beware of the conventional and its deadening influence. Both instruct us to walk the pathless path, and both remind us that only in trusting our original, spontaneous, loving nature are we authentic or even safe. For both, the question is imperative. In Zen, the koan or question is the vehicle for kensho, seeing into one's own real nature. Zen has long used the koan or impossible question as a means of awakening one to what Soren Kierkegaard calls the supreme paradox. The supreme paradox of all thought is the attempt to discover something that you cannot think. Likewise, the question is central to the Grail stories. As Grail scholar John Matthew writes, many, if not all, of the Grail mysteries are about self-discovery, and hence the emphasis on questions. The quest is a journey inward as well as through the lands of the Grail. Here is a quote from Benjamin Disraeli. Man is not the creature of circumstances. Circumstances are the creatures of men. Wisdom asks the right questions. Many of the world's myths, legends, and even children's fairy tales revolve around questions. How was the world created? When and how did man first appear? What should one ask for when given 3 wishes? Likewise, many of the world's scriptures revolve around questions. In the stories of Zen masters and in much of the Buddhist writings, in the Sufi stories and much of the Upanishads, we find a question-answer format. The whole of the Bhagavad Gita is in this style. Jesus questions his disciples and answers their questions. The book of Job is an extended what-if question. Plato's dialogues are full of questions and philosophy. Literally, the love of wisdom generally is concerned with questions. Scientific discoveries are driven by questions. These are just a few examples. Where wisdom asks the right questions, enlightenment is getting back behind the questioner, the hungry, restless mind. Zen calls this seeing into your own self-nature, into the loving, blissful consciousness that is before question, attention, or mind, and out of which these seem to rise. As the 6th Cha patriarch Huineng puts it, from the first, not a thing is. Where nothing is, there is nothing to get or ask. This is called a Zen doctrine of no mind. Here is another quote. What is a place where thought is useless? Knowledge and emotion cannot fathom it. Questions are also central to creative work. In his wonderful book, The Craft of Novel Writing, author Colin Wilson writes, "Go to the heart of most novels, and you will find a question mark. This applies also, of course, to stories, which are simply novels on a smaller scale. Literature is not alone. In every creative medium, we find creative work formed, fired, and glazed by questions. For example, Da Vinci's Last Supper was shaped by the question, how to render this scene so that the movements of the figures represent the passion of their souls." In considering the creative merit of several centuries of novels, Wilson suggests as a criteria for judgment the expanse of their worldview. At the bottom are the novels that reflect what he calls At the bottom are the novels that reflect what he calls a communal life word. Toward the middle are those with an individual life world. At the top are those that approach the universal realm, which he calls purely objective vision. These three exactly correspond to one's psychological development on the path of awakening or enlightenment, moving out of the conformity of convention into the individualization of self, and then transcending the individual self in universalization. What in the East is referred to as mukta or liberation, the self that is not the self. The hero, literary or actual, must individuate from the mass of automatic conformity, become himself, and then begin to discover the relationship of this self to all of life. Wilson suggests that the novel is a form of thought experiment. The aim of all these thought experiments is the exploration of human freedom. Again, the parallels are exact. The spiritual path through the universalization and the artistic path through purely objective vision are probing the outer boundaries of human freedom. The Zen koan is a thought experiment, penetrating through thought, finally into no thought. The story of the Holy Grail is a thought experiment, taking us through the psychological terrain of the hero's journey. We can make our own lives creative thought experiments. Ask more expansive questions than conventional dictates, and you widen your consciousness. Stay with these questions, and you deepen it. In exploring the range of human freedom, we can benefit from those who have gone before. We can learn from those who have, through spiritual and/or artistic thought experiments, explored the boundaries of human limitation and gone beyond. George Bernard Shaw said, "You use a glass mirror to see your face. You use works of art to see your soul." Scriptures and mythology, likewise, have this soul-reflective quality. Midas asked for gold, Solomon for wisdom, Arjuna for understanding. What are you asking for? We have already suggested viewing your life as a story. Call it a poem, a novel, a play. Colin Wilson observes, "You can't write a really effective play or novel without someone who doesn't know what he wants." So, it is with the story of your life. It doesn't really get interesting until you know what you want. The first step to knowing what you want is to choose the questions you want to explore and determine. Like a good novelist, to work them through. Wilson notes that among these novel writers, there are high flyers and low flyers. We can think of these as degrees of difficulty. In gymnastics, one may execute a simple exercise perfectly, or a very difficult one imperfectly. A novelist can write a nice little story about achieving a communal life world objectives, or she can attempt to take on bigger questions. Obviously, the more difficult the questions, the bigger the challenges and the greater the possibility of failure. As with novelists and their stories, so with all of us in our lives. So we can take our questions from the communal life world, what do they want me to do? Or from the individual life world, what do I want to do? Or we can ask, what does humanity, the human soul, want me to do? We can be high flyers or low flyers. Heroes are high flyers. Sometimes they crash and sometimes they succeed brilliantly, but they are always after the big questions. The mind runs on questions. Questions ignite the mind in a way that spark plugs ignite your automobile engine. Imagine all the journeys prompted by questions. Be they mundane questions of moving the body about. Is it time to rise? What shall I wear? What shall I have for breakfast? What is my schedule for today? Or are they psychological need questions? Will she make me happy? Will he be faithful? Will my children fail or succeed? What will people think? Or are they deeper attitudinal questions? How can I defend myself? How can I get by? How can I be approved by others? How can I avoid losing? How can I get ahead of people or back at them? Most of this questioning is so automatic that we hardly notice it. Conventionally, we call it subconscious and either dismiss it altogether or try to psychoanalyze it into normality, whatever that is. Your conscious or subconscious imaginative life, then, is just a matter of questions, or rather, of chasing answers to questions. Everything you've thought, everything you've imagined, came from a question that your imagination followed. When you find your mind drifting in fantasy, some question sent it on that journey. When you imagine a better world, some question sent it on that journey. Being mindful is becoming aware of the questions you are asking. Moving towards your life work is coming to ask the questions appropriate to it and persisting with them. Now I'll let the river sounds play on as you continue your relaxation into deep, deep sleep. Enjoy and rest well, my friends.